Some breaking news tonight on Herman Cain's campaign. His attorney's here with new information on Ginger White, the Atlanta woman who accuses Cain of a 13-year affair. And Lin Wood joins me now. Mr. Wood, clearly a pivotal moment now for your client's campaign.
What you basically have it boiled down to is, do you believe Herman Cain or do you believe Ms. White? I have seen her go out on what we now know is not just an interview where she could tell her story and be done, but now she's engaging in a media campaign, one interview after another after another. I'm told that she will be on one of your competing networks tonight. Ms. White, we know, has apparently and tragically been going through some severe financial problems in the recent weeks and months. We know that she reached out to Mr. Cain in the last several weeks asking him for his help, and Herman Cain helped her, just like he's helped a large number of other people.
I'm only asking you as his attorney for some factual evidence which may well help your client. I mean, you still haven't answered me as to how much money, how he paid the money, and how often he paid it, and when the payments first started. Do you know the answers?
What are you going to prove by my answering questions about when or why he paid her? If it was in response to a need for rent, what does that prove? Does it prove that he had a 13-year physical relationship with her? No, it absolutely does not. It only proves that he was a friend and that on occasion he tried to give her assistance, as he has done other people. So you want me to answer you questions that I don't believe that a candidate or any individual should be forced to answer.
This is shockingly naive, Mr. Wood. With respect, you are being shockingly naive.
Let me tell you.
The idea that a presidential candidate, can be paying a woman who claims to have had a 13-year affair, he admits to paying her money, to calling her at 5 a.m., making repeated texts over a period when he's actually actively running for president. The idea none of this is remotely relevant is preposterous. You know it's a relevant thing. All I'm asking you for, I'm not saying he's guilty of anything. I'm just trying to get some facts out of you. And the fact that you as his attorney know the answers but don't feel it's relevant to tell me the information is in itself a little strange.
Thank you. I'm sorry if you find me naive or if you find my statements about Mr. Cain preposterous. What I find naive is the failure on the part of members of the media to be asking the tough questions of the accuser, someone who has obviously a troubled past, who has an incentive potentially financially to go out and to make these kinds of unfounded accusations. Why don't you look at yourself, Piers, and the members of your media and recognize that you, in fact, and the media are participating in the deterioration of our political process?
Herman Cain has said that he is a generous guy who has paid lots of people. So far, we don't know of anybody else. It would be obviously helpful to your client. Well, it would be helpful to your client, given there's no evidence he's paid anybody else, if you just said, yeah, Herman Cain pays a lot of women to help them out when they're in times of need. Is that true? Are there any other women that he pays?
That's like, did you beat your wife last night?
No, because he said it. For your
question,
I'm not saying
to imply that he's paying off.
He said
paying money to a lot of women.
If it turns out he's only paid this woman or a few women quietly without ever mentioning this to his wife, it looks suspicious. And then it looks like he might not be telling the truth. And then you have a candidate who may not be believable and credible as a candidate. That's why it's important.
You just made up a question that doesn't contain one fact. Herman Cain has helped males, people in his church, relatives of his, friends, both male and female.
I mean, you seem to know a lot more than I do, but you don't want to tell me the facts.
No, sir, I'm not here to talk about the private matters of Mr. Cain. I'm not going to tell you the people that have been in need that he has helped. That's not my place.
If you're not here to talk about the private matters of Mr. Cain, why are you doing the interview? Because all we're doing is talking about the scandal.
it's a good question after sitting here for the last 15 minutes, but I came here to try to put what was going on in Herman Cain's life and his candidacy into perspective, to try to bring attention to the fact that I don't believe that he's been treated fairly. Herman Cain
presumably,
Herman Cain has lived the American dream, and he's made not only a business success, but a financial success.
At the moment, which
and in Laura,
why I want to press on this.
Based on false accusations and based on the media's desire to have this turn into a Jerry Springer show. I believe that if you're going to attack and impugn someone's character, then do it with facts, not unfounded, unsupported accusations. In your example, if hypothetically it were to be proven that any political candidate had in fact engaged in a long-time extramarital affair, if that is a proven fact, then use that fact to judge that candidate's character. But don't judge that candidate's character simply because somebody has made an accusation for whatever their motive may be, and they aren't in a position to prove it. These accusers, the two that have come out, one tells a story that's not even worthy of belief from 14 years ago, and now all of a sudden another tells a story for a reason that she has herself refuted, because she's not just out to tell her story in her own words. Now she's out on a media campaign. You ought to be asking the tough questions to them. And if they can provide you with proof, not just their statements, then it's fair to ask Mr. Cain to provide proof. But you're trying to get him to prove himself innocent, and you're presuming him guilty, and that's not the way it works. I know that Herman Cain has made it clear that he's never purchased a plane ticket to fly Ms. White anywhere, and I believe him. If Ms. White claims all of these lavish trips, where's one photo of her and Mr. Cain? She's not shown you one because there is not one. She claims to receive these lavish gifts. She hasn't shown anybody a gift because she says she doesn't have them. She has no receipts. She has nothing in terms of factual, hard evidence to support her accusation. It remains unproven, and it is not Herman Cain's place to have to prove his innocence, presuming that he is guilty. He should be given the fairness of being presumed innocent, and let Ms. White come up with facts and proof, and then I'll sit down with you and we'll talk about those questions that you so badly want me to answer tonight.